Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with a simple truth, one so plain, it often hides in the shadows of our excuses. Everything stays the same until you move. But nothing, absolutely nothing, will shift in your favor until you take personal initiative. The world does not respond to intentions. It responds to movement. The doors of opportunity do not swing open for the idle. They open for the man or woman who approaches them with definiteness of purpose and the courage to knock. You see, the great tragedy of the average life is not a lack of dreams. No, it is the absence of motion. People pray for change, but refuse to rise. They speak of goals, but their feet remain still. They crave success, but they do not pursue it. They sit in the same chair, in the same house, with the same problems, year after year, wondering why nothing has changed. Nothing changes in life until you take the first step. This is a truth so often ignored, yet so powerful that it holds the secret to transforming any life from stagnation to success. Initiative is the spark that ignites change. Without it, dreams remain illusions, plans remain dormant, and potential remains buried and fuzzy. You can have talent, intelligence, education, and even connections, but without initiative, all of it lies unused, like fuel in a tank of a car that never starts. The world has always rewarded the man or woman who moves first, who takes action while others hesitate, who gets up while others stay seated. It is in the simple act of moving, deciding, beginning, however small the gesture, that life begins to respond. Most people live in a loop of waiting. Most people live in a loop of waiting. They wait for the right time. They wait for permission. They wait for resources, motivation, or divine intervention. And while they wait, the seasons of life pass them by. The truth is, time doesn't stop for the indecisive. The clock keeps ticking. Life keeps moving. And if you don't move with it, you fall behind, not just in success, but in growth, fulfillment, and self-respect. Initiative is not about reckless action or charging ahead blindly. It is about understanding that motion precedes momentum. You cannot steer a parked car. But the moment you begin to move, even slowly, you create the conditions for progress. You give direction to your energy. You begin to attract opportunities that only reveal themselves after you begin. This is one of the great paradoxes of life. Many of the things you think you need before you start will only become available after you've taken action. Confidence, clarity, support, these are earned in motion. There are countless stories of individuals who had nothing but an idea and a will to act. No funding, no network, no safety net, just a burning desire and a refusal to stay still. And history favors them. Not because they were bold, because they were bold. They understood that initiative is the silent force behind every success. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as making one phone call, writing one page, showing up one more time. But each small act of initiative creates ripples. And over time, those ripples form a wave strong enough to change the course of your life. Taking initiative also builds an inner strength that cannot be faked. When you make a habit of action, you train yourself to become resourceful, resilient, and courageous. You no longer wait for the world to give you a green light. You become the one who decides to go. You become proactive, not reactive. And in doing so, you become powerful. Fear is often the enemy of initiative, but fear is a liar. It magnifies risks and hides rewards. It tells you that you're not ready, that you might fail, that others will judge you. But the irony is, fear fades in the face of movement. The moment you act, it begins to lose its grip. You realize it was never as strong as it seemed. And with every step you take, your confidence grows, not because the path is easy, but because you've proven to yourself that you're capable of walking it. What separates the successful from the average is rarely intelligence or background. It is usually the willingness to move. to the hard thing. Yeah. To risk discomfort, to take the initiative even when the outcome is uncertain. This is not magic. It's not mystery. It's a decision. A mindset. If you're waiting for conditions to be perfect, you'll be waiting forever. The perfect time. Time does not exist. The right moment is now, when you decide that standing still is no longer acceptable. When you recognize that your current reality is the direct result of the actions you haven't taken. And when you accept that nothing will improve until you do something different. There is power in beginnings. Power in that first step. No matter how small, it sets things in motion. It breaks inertia. It tells the universe, and more importantly, yourself, that you are serious, that you are willing to pay the price of progress, which is always paid in advance with effort. So take initiative today. Stop waiting. Stop thinking about all the reasons it might not work. Start where you are, with what you have. Do what you can. But above all, move. Because the truth remains, everything stays the same until you do. Same until you do. A person without a clear purpose is like a ship without a rudder, adrift directionless at the mercy of the winds and currents of life. But when you have a definiteness of purpose, when you know exactly what you want and why you want it, you set the coordinates of your life. Suddenly, movement becomes meaningful. Every step, every decision, every effort is guided by that purpose. You are no longer wandering. You are advancing. You are no longer confused. You are focused. And with that focus, you develop momentum that cannot be faked or replicated by wishful thinking. Definiteness of purpose is the foundation of all great achievement. It is the master key that unlocks action, persistence, creativity, and courage. It gives you a reason to rise early, a reason to persist when the path gets hard, and a reason to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. Without it, you are likely to be distracted by every opportunity, discouraged by every obstacle, and disheartened by every delay. With it, you are able to say a no to the wrong things and a yes to the right ones. You begin to live with intention. People who lack a clear purpose often find themselves busy, but not productive. Nothing with progress, effort with impact. They may work hard, but without direction, their energy is scattered. Their days are filled with activity, yet their lives remain unchanged. Ooh. Their lives remain unchanged. It's not that they don't try, it's that they don't know where they're going. And so they drift, sometimes for years, never quite satisfied, always looking for something they cannot name. Purpose changes that. It transforms your actions from random to strategic. When you are definite in your aim, you stop second guessing. You stop chasing other people's dreams. You stop following the crowd. You know what matters to you, and you pursue it with everything you've got. You begin to measure your days by your progress toward that purpose. You stop asking whether something is easy or convenient, and start asking whether it moves you closer to your goal. Purpose also fuels resilience. Life is hard. Obstacles are guaranteed. But people with a clear purpose don't quit when they're tired. They push forward because they're driven by something deeper. They don't crumble when criticized. They adjust course and continue. They don't get discouraged by delay. They trust the process because the purpose is stronger than the pain. That kind of inner strength is only available to those who are sure about what they're chasing. There is an incredible energy that comes from being aligned with a purpose. You become more creative because you're constantly thinking about ways to reach your goal. You become more disciplined because you're willing to give up distractions that don't serve your mission. You become more magnetic. People are drawn to your certainty, your conviction, your clarity. Your clarity. Opportunities find you because you've made yourself findable. You're not hiding in confusion or playing small. You're standing boldly in your path, and the world begins to respond. Some people are waiting for life to hand them their purpose, but purpose is not found. It is claimed. It is decided. It is decided. It is declared. You don't need permission. You don't need a sign. You need to look within yourself and ask, What do I truly want? What am I willing to fight for, work for, and sacrifice for? What would I do even if it were hard, even if it took years? The answer to that question is your purpose. And once you have it, your life begins to change. It's important to note that purpose is not always grand or glamorous. It doesn't have to impress others. It only has to matter to you. A man who decides to build a business, write a book, master a skill, raise a family with excellence. These are all purposes worthy of pursuit. What matters is not the scale, but the sincerity. A small, sincere purpose pursued with passion will always achieve more than a vague dream chased half-heartedly. Purpose also brings peace. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and comparison, having a clear direction silences much of the internal chaos. Then you stop worrying about what others are doing because you're busy building what you believe in. You stop doubting yourself because you're anchored in a mission that's bigger than your fear. You become less reactive, more proactive, less scattered, more centered. 2. Definiteness of purpose is not just a principle to success, it is a necessity for survival in a world that tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. It is the difference between living on purpose and merely existing. It is the force that drives motion and the anchor that keeps you grounded when the storm hits. If you want to move forward in life, don't just start moving randomly. Start with clarity. Decide what you want and commit to it completely. Let your purpose guide your steps. Let it fuel your fire. Let it shape your decisions. Because once you are definite in your aim, the path begins to appear. The energy to walk it begins to rise, and life begins to open up in ways you never imagined. Everything stays the same until you move, but movement without purpose is chaos. When you move with purpose, that is when the extraordinary becomes possible. Thoughts are powerful, but alone they are powerless. They are the spark, not the fire. They are the blueprint, not the building. Without action, thoughts remain trapped in the realm of imagination. They do not shape reality, change circumstances, or produce results. You can sit and think about success all day long. You can visualize, dream, journal, and plan, but none of it matters if you don't act. Because no matter how inspired or brilliant your thoughts may be, they are inert until they are backed by motion. There is a dangerous myth in the modern world that thinking and wishing are enough. That you can manifest success by simply believing hard enough, or that repeating affirmations will magically bring change. But belief, while essential, must be expressed through effort. Dreams must be expressed through discipline. Vision must be expressed through movement. It is only through action that thought takes form. People often say, "I'm waiting for the right moment," or "I need more time to think it through." But time does not reward the thinker. It rewards the doer. The thinker waits, while the doer advances. The thinker hesitates, while the doer experiments, fails, and learns. The thinker analyses, while the doer creates. Now, this does not mean action without thought.
Strategy matters.
But thought without action is self-deception. It gives the illusion of progress, while your life remains exactly the same. You can think yourself into circles. You can spend years caught in what-ifs, constantly tweaking plans, researching endlessly, preparing for a moment that never comes. That's the trap. Thinking can become a form of procrastination, an excuse dressed in intellectual clothing. It feels productive, but it's not. You don't get paid for thoughts. You don't gain strength, results, or experience from ideas. You only get those things when you turn ideas into action. All achievement starts with thought, yes, but it must be followed by labor. Great inventions, powerful books, thriving businesses, and meaningful relationships all began as thoughts. But someone had to take that thought and do the work. Someone had to build, write, speak, sell, risk. Every great outcome in history came from someone who acted, not just someone who thought, but someone who moved. Action is the filter through which ideas are tested. You don't really know if a thought is good until you try it. You can imagine a business model that looks perfect on paper, But until you make the calls, serve the customers, and face rejection, it's all theory. It's all. You can plan your fitness journey in detail, map out your meals, read the science, but until you show up at the gym, sweat through the discomfort, and stick with it, you won't change your body. Thought alone cannot transform your life. Only action can attain them. There is also a magic in action that thought cannot match. Action creates momentum. It creates feedback. It attracts support. When you move, people notice. Opportunities arise. You become more resourceful. You find ways to solve problems that never would have occurred to you if you'd stayed in your head. Action changes you. It develops character. It reveals strengths you didn't know you had and exposes weaknesses you can improve. Without action, you never grow. You remain who you are, where you are, or you are. There are those who say, but what if I fail? And the answer is simple. You will. Everyone does. Failure is not the enemy. Inaction is. Failure is a teacher. Inaction is a thief. When you fail, you learn. When you do nothing, you gain nothing. You gain nothing. Thinking may protect you from failure in the short term, but it will guarantee regret in the long term. Pain of discipline is nothing compared to the pain of wondering what could have been. You don't need to know every step, foresee every outcome, or eliminate every risk. You just need to take the next step, and then the next, and then the next, and then next. Each step you take informs the next one. Each action reveals more than hours of overthinking ever could. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. Growth comes from doing, not planning. The courage you want will show up after you begin, not before. This is not to say thought is useless. Thought is the seed of everything. You must water it with movement, expose it to the light of risk, and protect it with persistence. Only then will it grow into something real. So if you find yourself stuck in your plans, your fears, your daydreams, ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do right now to forward? Then do it. Don't wait for perfection. Don't wait to feel ready. Fact, progress is built by those who act while others hesitate. Power belongs to those who move while others merely think. Because no matter how brilliant your thoughts may be, nothing changes until you turn them into action. Thoughts alone cannot build your future. Only what you do can.